Well, it's a chilly day today, but not too bad, dry. And there's quite a few things to do on the allotment. But first of all, I wanted to let you know that Danny, who visited the plot and featured on my video, has just released his channel, which is called The Grapevine Allotment. So why not pop over to his channel and have a look what he's up to. It's early days for Danny, but he's underway. Good times. Well, I always like to keep my options open, and I had a plan for garlic in the polytunnel. I still might do a bit, but a few weeks ago I put some garlic into one of these flower beds behind under the apple tree, because apparently there's a synergy between the two. And it got me thinking, well, this particular area of the fruit garden, this particular bed, had nothing in it all year because I never really got round to growing anything in it. So it seems such a waste not to use it, and it's not got any white rot in it to my knowledge. So it seemed like absolutely prime ground for growing some garlic. So I thought I'd just get the last few weeds out. I already did a bit of weeding in here and put some of this garlic in, which was destined for the polytunnel. So this is extra early, and they really are big corms, massive in fact. So I'm going to put them in here, or at least one of them, see how far they go. I think it's one of those corms that actually has got very big cloves in it, and probably not too many. And there's a rotten one in there, which is really quite important, because garlic outside of the ground this time of year, I don't find it lasts particularly long if it's come from the nursery. Some does, but I've had a few over the years that if you keep it too long it gets a bit soft. I'm not quite sure why, because you'd think it was just like the garlic that you have in the kitchen, dry, ready for using, but for some reason doesn't seem to be the case. So in here I've got, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's probably enough for in here. And I'm going to put these in and we'll see how they do in this little space. Right, 3 across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Get them in. I've never grown this garlic before. It's one of the white varieties grown in the Isle of Wight, and I'm hoping that it'll be particularly tasty. But it's nice to have a garlic which indicates that it's going to come early, and then hopefully you can have a little bit of sort of staggering of your harvesting. One in there, one in there. I know when you come out and it's cool like it is today, it doesn't take long when you're working just to get a bit of warmth in your bones, and before long you don't really feel the cold. Right, they're in one space at the corner here, which actually I'm going to break one out of here if I can. This one looks particularly hard. Oh, there we go. And just get it evened up. There we go, 12. And because the cats are having an absolute heyday, particularly on my experimental bed, I might need to get that covered today. I'm going to just cover this over. There we go. Job done. Well, this bed has been Sweet Williams, still is Sweet Williams, and they seem to be quite, well, healthy looking, very bushy, So I'm just going to clean this out. I'm going to take the cosmos out because I think they've probably had it. And there's a little bit of weed in here. Got some rosebait, willow herb. And then I'm going to just leave this Sweet William to see if it will grow through to next year. It looks as though it will, but we'll see. It'd be nice just to get it tidied up and ready for the winter. I'm not sure whether Sweet William is an annual or a perennial. I think I've seen it grow in the same place a few times, but if you know, put your comments down below and then I can be sure. There's quite a lot of mare's tail in here, surprise, surprise. And I'm going to leave the covers on this just to stop the cats from using it. There's one or two loose ones here that are coming out, but I'll work my way around. Well, this bed has essentially been a poppy bed underneath this apple tree, and it's one of those plants that I certainly don't have to worry about sowing because it just self-seeds, which is fantastic, and hopefully we'll have another great show of poppies in the spring. Well, unfortunately, the cats have had a real heyday in this experimental bed, which is leaving me with no other choice than to cover it over, which I was hoping I wasn't going to have to do. But to be honest, if it's got to be done, it's got to be done. And the cats can cause a tremendous amount of damage on this plot, and unfortunately, there's no way around it other than to cover everything. And people ask me why I cover things, and they think that there's a deeper, more meaningful reason for covering them, but the reality is no, it's just to protect them from being dug up and dealing with this. So that's the worst of the problem out. I'm now going to put some hoops over it and get some net over the top. So these are homemade hoops, which I acquired from a trampoline that was being disposed of. And that's just a bit more there that I don't want. And I'll get the other one on and then get some net on top of this. So this pretty much concludes a complete U-turn on my plan to put garlic into the polytunnel. And well, the reason for that is that I just think garlic does better more naturally outside, and it does require that really cold period. And well, this was carrots last year, and you might have remembered that a cat decided to completely upturn everything that was in here and really did away with all the carrot potential. So I've got two of these, and I think I'm going to just use them for the balance of this fast or extra early garlic. And then that's all the garlic planted in what I consider to be white rock free zones. Anyway, that's the thought. So I'll get these few in here, and then the last of this garlic corn into the other one. I'll just put one in the middle, and that should spread them evenly. And that'll be garlic done for the season, which is always nice. Right, I've learnt my lesson. This is going to be covered from the get-go. So this is the other barrel that I'm going to use, and I had kale in here which we grew for the chickens, and they seem to like that, but needs must, bit of a change, and we'll get the rest of this garlic in here. And I noticed this morning that Mr. Mole's, or Mr. and Mrs. Mole's excavation that's going on alongside this is getting a little bit out of hand. In fact, it's displacing the step, so I think it's time to move it. And what I might do is just top a little bit of this off with this garlic, with the soil on top, and I'll put one big one in the middle. There we are, that's the garlic done. And I'll just use a bit of this fresh soil on the top, and then I think I'm going to be into adjusting this step so that there's no accidents during the winter months when it does get a bit wet and a bit slippery down here. Right, there we go. I will put some cover over this. Probably need to get a little bit more than that. Garlic done. Good times. Mrs. K's put in a request for a leek today, and I thought I'd surprise her with one of these huge ones that's started to form. And before they get to the point where they bolt, these big ones, you need to get them out of the ground if you can and eat them. And this is a beauty. Now I'm going to have to chop that one using my normal preparation method. Good times. Made a bit of a discovery. Well, to be perfectly honest, I made this discovery some time ago, but I've not shared it, thinking that it might not just work out. But I had another look this week and I've been pretty surprised. I'll show you. So over in this group of bins, this is where I collect my water, I've noticed that there's been a plant growing, and I thought when I set up my pond that it might go from the bins into the pond and succeed. And I thought, well, we'll see if it gets a little bit larger. And I looked in this week. Just take a look at that. Now I've got no idea what this plant is, but it's well and truly bedded in. And when I looked at the beginning of the season, it was just 2 or 3 of these leaves, and now there's a whole host of them. And I can see a runner going round the inside of the water butt. So I think I'm going to leave it over the winter months and just see how it does. And then I think I'm going to add it to my pond next season. Now, if any of you know whether that's a particularly virulent plant or whether it's going to be a problem in the pond, then please let me know. But my experience this year is that it's been pretty slow growing, and it looks like the sort of plant that I could probably just take a clump out when I needed to. Wow, what a bonus. Well, I've gone quite a few years on this plot without having to worry about birds eating the fruit. This year I learnt a bit of a lesson, because these Jostaberries ended up with no fruit whatsoever, and they definitely started with some fruit. And I think next year, if I'm going to succeed, I'm going to have to net quite a lot of my soft fruit. Definitely the gooseberries that seem to be absolutely massacred at the beginning of the season with sawfly. And I think because of the growth in population of blackbirds, I think it is, I think I'm going to have to net these Jostaberries if I'm going to get some fruit. So I'm going to do a bit of pruning, and this is just going to shape it really. And then hopefully next year, if I can find the right sort of mesh or netting, I'm going to get that over the top of all this and see if we can get a Jostaberry crop like I've had in the previous years. And I guess things change, and maybe it's a positive sign. Maybe it's because the wildlife has just increased, and that'll be a good thing, and I just need to compensate accordingly. You need to keep these Jostaberries under control because they do get very bushy, and these plants were only put in a couple of years, but they're already very substantial. So I'm going to work my way around, just get a bit of shape, and then just leave them until the spring before I decide what the next step is. Well, it's pretty noisy here this morning. Everyone's decided that it's a good DIY day. We've got a roof going on over there. We've got some work going on the right. So I think I'm going to resort to a bit of a time lapse. What I'm going to do here is, well, it ain't going to be long before I get that call that says horse manure ready. And I cleared all these, but I've got to get that couch grass out of being amongst this good compost. And then this compost can start to go on one or two of the areas that are ready. So I know when I put my fork into this what I'm going to get. And it's usually full of those white roots. And here they come. You've got to be really careful because they snap off really easily. So I'm going to work my way through. I'll show you at the end what's in here, but it can be pretty surprising how it grows over from the bank. Well, no more putting it off. Let's get going. Well, I really do get quite skilled at this over the years. I've got a technique, and I know what you're thinking. It's an awful lot of work to get rid of couch grass in the middle of your compost. But to be honest, when you comb it like this, it just pulls through, and the bits that come off are just clear, and everything else comes over to one side and it gets dug into the next compost bin. And I have tried various things. I've tried putting polythene along the base, and it just grew over the top. It seems to come in from the bank, and once the vines start growing over, they root down. There really is no simple solution over here. After all these years, I would have taken it if I could have done. But this works, and because I move it from one compost bin to the next, when I come to put that into the barrow, if there are any rogue pieces that I've found, then I just whip them out at that stage. And touch wood, to date I've never had any in the plot, so it seems to be working okay. I'll take these bits now I've got back to the side of the compost bin. I'll take those out just so that when I get round the other side I don't have to pull them and break them. But you can see this is a fairly green top with a root underneath, and it's probably come in from the surface. Well, I've done nearly half of one of these, and this is how I get fit during the winter. I reckon I'm at the peak fitness sort of end of January, early February, and it's actually good exercise, and I don't mind it. If you're adverse to a bit of exercise, then an allotment's probably not a great idea unless you've got some amazing techniques. Right, I'm going to carry on and get back just a little bit further and then call it a day. Well, if you've enjoyed my video today, then why not like and subscribe and ring that bell, and you'll get updates every Wednesday and every Sunday at 8 p.m. and I'd love to have you along. Diolch yn fawr.